I miss that sexy smile. Looking forward to see you. I hope I
A little more. Okay, I'm here. Calm down, Jed. Calm down. I've been up since 3 a.m. because my little man decided that he wanted to rise at 3 a.m. and hence we all had to be awake eating breakfast. So if I'm a little wired today, it's not caffeine. You can blame my child. Love you, baby. All right. Very special show today. I have someone in the house that everyone is really, really excited about. I'm excited about as well. So I'm going to intro. First of all, let's show his fantastic face. And by the way, all dressed up. I'm going to call you MLD. Your name is Jonathan.
Yes.
Your last name, I always say it, Jonathan Hogwood. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
Jonathan Hogwood, Modern Life Dating. You know the channel. You know the spice. You know it. Well, I had to bring him in. He is here. Here's what we're going to talk about today. The title of the show was Masculine Men Are Leaving the U.S. to Find Feminine Women, because it is a problem. It is real. It is happening. Here's what's on the docket today. I want to discuss dating, marriage, feminism, promiscuity. I want to get into some health and some matrix stuff. Jonathan and I are going to react to some viral social media content. We've got some tweets from our friend Rollo Tomasi. I've got a tweet from Tommy Lauren. There was an exchange that happened between her and I this morning. Interesting. And then someone else jumped on the bandwagon and wanted to remind me that she, in fact, does not need a man. So we're going to talk about that. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome. And at the end, you can plug whatever you want. Everyone, just make a note. Get in that chat. We're going to be reading those super chats. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you like the fact that I brought Jonathan in here today. All right. So much to talk to you about. You do a little bit of everything. I discovered you from the YouTube channel.
Right.
Then I did a little digging and I was like, wait, he's a coach. He's doing this one-on-one coaching for men. You're talking about not only just dating, but like health, fitness, relationships, fashion.
Yes.
You're getting into all of that when it comes to men. And I was told that you coined the money muscles game frame. Is that correct?
Yes.
Money muscles game frame. So I have to ask before anything, because people say that all the time. They repeat it, that line that you created. Where did you get, like, what brought you to a place where you were like, money muscles game frame, that's the recipe for guys?
So I've been coaching men hands-on since 2019, right? And I don't do YouTube to be like popular or whatever. Like, it's kind of a necessary evil at this point. I don't want to be popular. I don't want to be mainstream at all. What I want is I'm looking for men who want to change their lives, right? And when it comes to men, what I call is the core four: make money, make muscles, learn game, and hold frame. These are the four components that I believe every man has to deal with in his life. And if he doesn't deal with these aspects, life is going to be a lot harder for him, because he's going to want a wife. He's going to want a good body. Every man wants to be physically strong. He's going to want to be able to choose a good woman, because we know a lot of guys that fall in love with women that, you know, I'm going to keep it PG on your show. They're
not the highest quality. Let's just say that.
Right.
You don't have to keep it PG. By the way, this is a space to just go buck wild.
I'll warm up. It's my first time here. It's first time here. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, there's a lot of guys out there who fall in love with hoes, and it's just not a good idea. You have to understand, this woman is good for keeping long term. This woman is good for recreational use only. And the fourth part is hold frame, which is in the internal component of like the man's internal self-esteem. What he's okay with, what he's not okay with, and upholding those standards in his life. Because nobody likes a man with no backbone unless they're going to take him for granted.
So what do you make? We've been covering a lot of panels where you will see like women and their boyfriends, and I consistently see women stepping into a masculine frame and men stepping into a feminine frame. I mean, they just vanish beside their girlfriends. You can see them cowering, waiting to see if their girlfriends are comfortable with what they're saying, walking on eggshells. And you don't just see it on videos we release. You see that happening in people's marriages, honestly, everywhere. What's going on there that these guys have lost their sense of being a man?
We have lost masculine role models in America. Like, the average dude is coming from a single mother household where not only is the father not present, the father is not present due to the mother, separating them, engaging in the divorce. And then typically, you know, when have you ever met a woman who's talking great about her ex-boyfriend or ex-husband?
Yeah, that's true.
And who does she tell it to? Everybody.
Everyone who will listen.
Including the kids, right? And you have these kids who look at mommy as, you know, number one, because you're a child. That's who you're dependent on, mom, right?
Yeah.
Especially when dad's not there. So mom's word is life. Mom's word is everything. And then they're engaging this smear campaign on the fathers. So you have women growing up with bad ideas and perspectives of men, and then you have young men growing up feeling like I'm bad because I'm a man.
Yeah.
Like I'm inherently an
Yep.
evil or bad individual because I was just born a man. And it's absolutely terrible. Man or woman, but it's absolutely terrible. And it's exclusively a problem happening in America and in the Western Hemisphere. This is not happening in Asia. This is not happening in the Eastern Hemisphere. And this is why I believe that if America doesn't turn this around, like, you know, we're circling the drain, because you cannot be a successful country, you cannot be a successful nation if you're going to be consistently demoralizing and demonizing half of the population.
Yeah.
It's just illogical.
That's right. And it's become acceptable to just wreck men.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the difference. You know, I want bad behavior to be able to you can criticize, you know, men behaving badly, you can criticize women behaving badly, but it seems like in society now there's very few people willing to do that. You know, it's the free pass, go pick on a bunch of men, ha ha ha, let's all laugh about it. But the second you say something about a badly behaved woman, you're labeled a pick-me, a misogynist, all sorts of things. It's interesting what you say. I think a lot of this talk about toxic masculinity has been internalized by men in a negative way, and they're trying to just now try to figure out how to get out of that mold that they've kind of adopted and they've accepted that society has handed them. And at the same time, you have so much internalized feminism when it comes to women that we don't even realize. You know, we may be conservative, we may be pro-life, but we don't realize that the lens through which we see everything has that kind of haze over it. Right. You actually have to sit back and be like, wait a minute, I don't really feel that way. Was I programmed to say that? What is going on? You have to catch yourself. So I want to ask you, because you mentioned you don't live here.
No.
So let's talk about, you live in Japan. Let's talk about, you moved there a while back, as far as I understand.
Right. So I first left the United States November 4th, 2012.
Okay.
And I lived in the northern region from Tokyo in Saitama, Japan. I lived in Saitama for 1 year. And then I started just traveling around the world and kind of seeing different parts. I've always been traveling since I was young. I was raised a Pentecostal missionary kid.
Oh, okay.
Like missionary in the sense, like I was always going on mission trips. So I went to Africa, I went all over the place. I was
so used to the travel.
I was telling everybody about Jesus from a young age. I was in school to be a pastor at one point.
Interesting.
I got kicked out for being a bad boy, but it's for the better.
Shocking.
I'm here now. I've done something right. I've done something right. But yeah, you know, I understood. I saw the writing on the wall, right?
What do you mean by that?
I saw America kind of steering away from traditional values, and traditional values are traditional for a reason. They work. You know what I mean? Everybody's like saying like, well, this is modern times now. Like we got to adjust to modern times. Like adjust to what? Everything fucking is not good. Like in regards, like in Japan, when I like go out and I just talk to a girl, she's not like, what do you want? Are you trying to have sex with me? I'm like, Jesus, like, relax. This is McDonald's. I'm just like, you know, I'm just saying hi. Men and women like get along in Japan, and like they understand like it's normal to get along with the other gender. And so here it's like you're kind of public enemy number one as a guy. Like, you know, like I almost feel like when I come back to the States, sometimes I feel like a second-class citizen just for being a man. Like I was flying out of Minnesota one time to go back to Tokyo. The lady at the register or at the counter for the Delta, she had completely messed up my flight information, and she was like, "Okay, you can't get in. You don't have a visa." I was like, "Actually, I do have a visa. It's right here. Not not like a credit card, but an actual visa to get into a country because I'm not a member of Japanese society in regards to like being a citizen, right?"
Okay.
So my visa was fine, everything was fine, and she was like talking down to me, and I was just like, "Lady, like, you're wrong. And you don't know what you're talking about." And she flipped out on me, right? And started yelling at me. And she's like, "We're going to cancel this guy's flight and stuff." And I was just like, this lady's fucking nuts. And then I'm just like, she just didn't like the fact that I was challenging her on the fact that she was wrong. I think a lot of chicks nowadays in the States, they walk around unchallenged. They walk around like if somebody challenges them, they take it as a personal offense, you know, and they crumble at the slightest, how can I say, just challenge to their beliefs. You know what I mean?
Well, that's because, you know, women get told all the time, you're right. You know, you look at the whole Me Too movement and, you know, it's not to say there weren't certain components of that initially that were beneficial, but largely it was believe her on second one.
Yeah.
And I took enormous issue with that. I said, well, how could you just believe a woman by virtue of the fact that she is a woman? Don't things require an investigation? Aren't we innocent until proven guilty?
Due
What's
process.
going wrong in society that suddenly, just because you're born a woman, you have a right to be, you're suddenly right on everything on second one. So I think, there's a lot going on in this country that's messed up in terms of the double standard and how men and women are treated. And I think the good news is that I think more and more people are becoming aware of that. I see a rising culture of men that have a newfound awareness that they've been painted as the bad guy from second one. What you said before, it's like a guy approaches you and it's like a woman is entitled to think, oh, this guy's going to do X, Y, and Z wrong before he even opens his mouth.
Right.
So it becomes really challenging. There's a good number of men now, though, I think, that are standing up to that and saying, I'm going to own my masculinity. I'm going to own the fact that I'm a good guy, that I'm not here to do any harm. I'm not going to, if you do something wrong, I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to be comfortable doing that. I want to ask you about Japan, though. This is very interesting to me. How is dating different in Japan? Like, what do our traditional gender roles do they look different there? Talk to me a little bit about the dynamics between men and women there.
It's extremely traditional. The majority of women that go to college, their number one agenda is to find a husband. On the television, like, you don't have like a woman and a husband and like the husband's an idiot and she's like, oh, my husband's an idiot, but thank God I have Tide because, I've solved this, and that's just not the case. Men and women get along on the television shows there. They're still like, there's commercial over there for laundry detergent and it's like a bunch of housewives with aprons like dancing under the sun singing, right? And the women know their role and they know their place, right? And when I say that in America, like, what do you mean know our place, right? It's like immediately offensive.
Triggered.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's like letters. You have to put the letters in order to make a word, right? Everybody knows their place in order to make something work. You are in a relationship with your husband, right? You don't strut around and like try to run the show 24/7. There has to be order. But these modern chicks, they want like totalitarianism. They want like to be a dictator. They want everything their way.
Yeah.
And the smallest infraction against what they desire, they take it so internalized as like, this is a personal attack against me and you're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're a bad guy, you're transphobic, you're like, they go down the woke shameless. Yeah. So in Japan, like, it's actually customary for the date to be Dutch. Like 50-50.
Wow.
Because they know that they have to come together and get married and have children because they're still focused on traditionalism.
Does that change, like you're saying it's Dutch initially, does that change if they do get married? Does the man take on more of that financial responsibility at that point?
Yes, for sure. There is a massive traditional aspect to the relationships, to an extent that in really traditional Japanese households, the man understands he's got to provide for the family. So he actually hands over his entire salary to the mother or the wife, and then she allocates a portion of that for him to spend, and then she takes care of the children. So that's like one part of it.
That's interesting to me because when you say like a woman has to know her place, people immediately will think you're being demeaning.
Right.
But that's actually what you're describing is a structure where a woman has a lot of control,
right.
Where she knows her place as wife, mom. She's not trying to be the husband. She's not trying to be the man in the house.
Right.
But it's not like she's being disrespected. There's a mutual respect that's derived from rooting themselves in those traditional values. So that's very interesting to me.
Yeah, a lot of women think like when I say like I want a woman that cooks, they think I'm going to handcuff them to the stove and be like, listen, it's stroganoff or uppercuts. Like,
Right, like there's a forced component to it.
Right, and it's not. Like, there's a beautiful girl that was on Valuetainment Money with us yesterday, and she was conflating cooking and cleaning with slavery as a wife.
Oh,
and
she's been brainwashed.
And I was just like, baby, you are gorgeous, but you are dumb. Like, what are you talking about? Slavery? How is cooking or cleaning and taking care of the household and somebody you love slavery? I like, if anything, you could argue that the man financially providing for a woman with the threat of divorce looming over his head, where you have to pay alimony and child support for the rest of the, in some states like Florida, I think the rest of your life, if you've been married for 10 years, right, for alimony.
Yep.
I don't understand how you couldn't call that slavery. But if I'm like, hey, babe, can you like make a sandwich and wash the dishes? She's like, oh, I'm so oppressed. It's ridiculous.
Because women have been programmed, to everything that we hear is like, oh my God, I'm not going to be a 1950s housewife. You're not going to put me backward. You're not going to take me backward. So now it's like even just taking care of a home, even just making your husband a sandwich, keeping a house clean, things that women, you know, back in the day would value and would enjoy and would appreciate about themselves. Like, hey, I want to do this. You know, this is a sign of, you know, me fulfilling my role. I want a beautiful home. I want, you know, my husband to come home and have a beautiful dinner. I want, you know, these were things that they took pride in.
Right.
They now have been taught for a very long time that those are signs of A, weakness, and B, that, you know, guys are putting you under their thumb in
Oppression.
some way. Oppression, slavery. That's why that word comes out. We hear that growing up as females, you know, don't be oppressed by men. Don't, you know, and it gets in your head so that you're then sitting on a panel with somebody and she's regurgitating there you go, misogyny, slavery. And if she really sat back and thought about it, it would make no sense.
Yeah, Miss Montana yesterday had the audacity to say I was mansplaining. I couldn't, like, it was like I was living the meme. I came here to America and a beautiful white chick told me I was mansplaining. I was just like, oh God, get me on a fucking plane out of here.
Yeah, well, that is it. And I always say, you know, it's interesting, I bring it back to politics sometimes, but I always say in this country, it's very hard, you know, for a man to run against a female because a lot of components come into play. Suddenly you're on the stage and you have to be super conscious that you're debating a woman and the media is going to portray it every time you raise your voice as, oh, look, he's trying to oppress her on the stage. He's trying to silence her. He's mansplaining. So I always say, are you interested, like, do you want equality or not?
Yeah.
Because equality, if you really want it, means that you go out there and you can take the heat just like a man.
Right.
So that happens all the time. I love that when you're engaged in a debate with a female. As a guy, I watch it all the time, and a guy knows, it's, oh, you're mansplaining, you're misogynist, blah, blah. All the words come out.
It's retarded. And like if you really look at feminism, what it is, if you ever follow the roots of like female empowerment, feminism, any of the stuff, it always goes back to votes or money. That's all it is. Because this all started with consumerism, right? If you like think about, remember when Old Spice was just like not cool? Right?
Yes.
And they were a dying company, right?
Yeah.
So what they did is they realized that the majority of people who do the shopping for men's hygiene products are women.
That's right.
So they switched the marketing to target women, and they made like millions and millions and millions of dollars, turned the entire franchise around, right? The old commercial with Terry Crews and whatnot.
Yeah.
So a lot of companies saw this and they realized like, oh, wait, we should just start targeting women, marketing towards women and making them the ones that we want to take the money from, right? But then it got to the point like marketing women, it became funny to like belittle men. And then, you know, one marketing company sees a trend work and then everybody starts seeing it, like, making it work. And then next thing you know, you have a whole culture with the music, the media, the video games, the social media, which is huge, all demonizing men. But if women were to stop and actually objectively look at what feminism is doing for them, it's extorting them.
Oh, yeah. They're miserable.
They're miserable. I mean, female unhappiness is like literally, or female happiness is consistently dropping since like the 1970s. And I mean, I ironically laugh at it. I'm just like, well, you wanted equality, here it is, you know?
Yeah, I think they're unhappy because they're being told to live a promiscuous life, that's somehow going to lead to happiness, and women by nature aren't programmed for that. Like we're just not. We're not. I don't know a single woman that went through a stage of life like that, and if they're being honest with themselves, not one of them was happy. They'll always say, oh, I was hurt. I was, you know, feeling horrible about myself.
Yes.
I wasn't getting the respect that I felt that I wanted. I wasn't bonding with that guy. I felt cheap at the end. You hear it all the time. People who are actually able to have an honest assessment of what that meant for them. And it comes down to, I think, a reality that feminism has taught women that men and women need to be the same.
Right.
You know, you can't, because by virtue of saying men are men and women are women, you have to, you know, acknowledge that men have certain strengths that women don't have.
Yeah.
And women can do certain things like have babies that men can't do. And underlying all of that, I think, for them was the implication that women were the weaker sex. They felt like an admission that men and women were different would be an admission that women were weaker. And I always say, well, it depends. If you're trying to compete with a man and you're trying to go into the gym and lift like a man, yeah, you're going to be weaker.
Right.
But if you're going to be, if you're looking at aspects of femininity, being feminine and being nurturing and being a mom and bearing a child, well, that's where your strength lies.
Right.
So it's interesting. So do you feel that in Japan, like, how do you feel about guys who are saying now that they don't feel that they can find a feminine woman with traditional values in the U.S. and they're looking everywhere but the U.S.? Is that a wise decision in your view?
So I don't think like it's just a blanket statement like go to X country and then you're going to have the most awesome woman, because there are shitty women in Japan. There are shitty women across the world, right? But you have to understand like what you're looking for. And this is why I talk about in like Money Muscles Game Frame, the game component, right? Game helps you identify which is a good woman for a long-term relationship and which is not a good woman for a long-term relationship. Because the majority of guys, they just want one woman. The majority of guys don't want to like sleep with a bunch of women. That's actually a pretty small percentage of guys.
Is that true?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I coach a lot of guys. The majority of guys just like, hey, you know, I just want a decent woman I can go home with. She like will take care of me, cook, clean, do the traditional stuff around the house, right? He's going to do the traditional stuff. He's going to take out the trash. He's going to go get the leaves out of the gutter. He's going to do the lawn work, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, again, what do you have? You hear people saying like, well, I'm not your mother. You know, this guy wants a mother. And the bottom line is, it's sad to say, but it's a nation of broken women raising broken women, because you're having this chain of divorce. Because what it does is it conditions the children to be raised in this single mindset. The women don't know. They don't have a good reference point of mother and father interacting in a positive manner. They have a negative stigma.
Yep.
Add in the media, add in the music. I mean, terrible songs like Wet Ass Pussy and stuff like this.
Terrible.
Telling them, yeah, you're gonna be so sexually liberated by putting yourself out there and getting used and abused and thrown away by a bunch of men. That's how you're gonna empower yourself. This is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire life. But they're eating it up hook, line, and sinker. So you have this kind of situation right now where I don't know. I think the smart people are going to rise above, and I think the dumb people are going to suffer, you know. But I mean, the way the system's set up right now in America, divorce laws are changing, right? I think we had the lead attorney on Sawscast the other day.
Yeah, I'm thinking about having
it.
him on too. Some folks in the chat. By the way, we're going to get to the chat in 1 second, Angel. But folks in the chat, do you want to hear from the lead attorney? Put it in there and let me see. I'll check it later. I'm curious. I let them sometimes decide who I bring on here because, you know, audience is important.
You got to listen to the audience, yeah. But the laws are changing, right? And I think people are kind of seeing the writing on the wall, like shitholes like California.
Right.
Oregon,
in many respects.
Washington, New York, like, you know, the divorce laws there, the custody laws, alimony. It's just like blatantly archaic, saying like, oh, you know, this woman is so weak and dumb, she can't provide for herself, so we need to pay her alimony.
Which isn't that an interesting argument, though? I find that the double speak on that.
Right.
This woman is needy. She can't provide for herself. You have to take care of her. But in the same breath, this is an empowered woman.
Right.
She doesn't need a man. You know, feminism all the way, girl power. I'm like, which is it?
Well, you know, women love to lie to themselves.
That's true.
And you know they love to lie to themselves.
That is true.
And they'll take whatever they can get advantage-wise. And honestly, to be honest, I don't know if guys would be any better if we could go out there and like women were the breadwinners and like we could just divorce them and go fuck other women and like, you know, make a ton of money and have them finance our debauchery.
Well, what's interesting to me about it is that according to the media, the system is against women. You know, the system is stacked against women. And I sit here every day and I'm like scratching my head about this. I'm like, well, how so exactly, honey, I say? Because, you know, the media is on your side. I mean, the cable news, the magazines, all of it. So how is the system, the divorce laws, how is the system stacked against you exactly? And immediately, you know, they'll come back and they'll say, and just Pearlie was on the other day and she said, well, they'll say, well, men can sleep around. And I'm like, honey, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like you've equalized that playing field and now you're miserable about it. But I just don't understand how anybody in this day and age can blame the patriarchy when, where is it? I mean, do you see a patriarchy in the United States? I have to search high and low and I'm just not seeing it.
Well, I mean, because college campuses have turned into indoctrination stations, really. It's no longer about getting educated. It's about getting indoctrinated. And this is where all this cancer is coming from. They're like, I had a young man who is in my coaching community, 18 years old. He's going to school to become a computer science engineer, right? And he showed me his curriculum, and they're telling me I'm bad because I'm white.
Oh, yes.
And it's just
and
like...
male.
Yeah.
Forget it.
And he's like, I'm from Lithuania. Like, I'm not even American.
Right.
You know? But it's insane. And it's happening in these college campuses. And so there seems to be some kind of root force like pushing this. I don't know if it's the lizard people or whatever conspiracy theory.
Well, I think, I mean, we do a lot of work on the World Economic Forum here and
Klaus
a lot
Schwab,
of work on
terrible
Klaus
person.
Schwab. And these people have a deep financial and otherwise investment in men and women not forming a union,
right,
and them being less attracted to each other and not building a family and
right,
not building that stability,
right,
and being unhealthy and being depressed. So the reason I always tie that in is because I'm like, look, that society is breaking down. You need to wake up and not be part of that and
right,
make a different choice, and
yes,
understand that there are people that have a financial interest in you collapsing.
Right.
You know, part of that collapse is the breakdown of the family. We also did a segment. I covered, you know, the you want to talk about a real pandemic, the pandemic of fatherlessness
right,
that these kids are experiencing.
Right.
So many boys growing up, and there's no male figure in that home.
And that was me growing up. You know,
Okay.
no father. My father left when I was young, and then he died when I was 15, and I never met him. So
how did you overcome that? Because it is you know, a concern for a child that grows up in that. You know, how do they make up for that loss?
It's hard. It's really, really hard, and that's why I started what I do with the Masculine Empowerment Network. Right. That's how the core 4 components kind of came to light, because the consistent problems were, I don't have money because I don't know where to go get a job and where to do something with my life. I'm fat because I've been following the fucking food pyramid. I don't have a girlfriend because I've been following the simp programming, and then I have no self-esteem because I was raised without a father, and I wasn't taught how to backbone, right? So you have all these things that I realized that it took me years and years and years to figure this stuff out. But finally, I was able to, you know, sum it up into core 4: money, muscles, game, frame. So, I mean, for the average guy, it's hard. These guys are hurting. Like when I do my, you know, I do group coaching sessions on Zoom, right?
Oh.
And it's like kind of a running joke between the leaders in the group, and like how soon in are one of these guys going to break down and cry? Because these guys are suffering behind the scenes, but they don't let anybody know because they do have masculine pride. But these dudes are truly suffering behind the scenes, and so that's why I've been doing what I'm doing. Like, again, I don't do it for the clout, I don't do it for the fame, none of this nonsense, you know. I do it because these guys need help, and I sincerely care, and I really want to do that to help as many men as possible. And then going back to wanting to break up the family, right? That is so important, because the man is the head of the household.
That's right.
The man is the head of the family, right? And, you know, you're married, you have one child?
I have one child.
Right? And so that's a pretty strong family bond you have, right? If I were to offer you $5 million for your child, you would say no.
No amount of money.
Right. Exactly.
No way.
And you see, that's what Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, the elites, that's what they hate. Because when two people come together, right? Because if you're rich, you're famous, you have an alliance, but this guy's with you because you have this much money, this guy's with you because you have that much money, you could buy them the other way. I couldn't give you $5 million to get rid of your son.
Or my husband, for that matter.
You see,
which is another point.
I love it.
There's no amount of money.
I love it.
Truthful, like that's my baby doll.
Some women would sell their husbands.
Husband for sure. I think husband for sure. There are women out there that would be like, oh, well, maybe not for 5, but how about 7 or 8?
Right.
They'd be in the negotiation room on that one.
Exactly.
But there's no dollar value.
And then the same thing for me. If somebody said, listen, I want you to like get rid of your brother or get rid of your sister, I'd be like, there's no way, because you can't buy that family bond.
Right.
And they don't want that, right? So because I tell the guys this, I say, look, get into my programs, figure out your dating problems, sort them out, and then move on. I don't tell guys, I don't believe in this eternal player lifestyle that a lot of guys get caught up in, right? And then next thing you know, they're 40, they're coming up on 50, they're like, damn, I'm going to die alone. And I just don't think it's a good solution for guys just to do this endless player life. I say have fun for a little bit for sure, but ultimately get your shit together and then look to find a good woman, lock her down, and keep the government out of it as much as possible. Because
out of everything.
Because when I see like masculinity coaches or something saying, just man up and marry that chick, I don't agree with that. I don't. Protect yourself. Don't walk stupidly into any deal.
Right.
And when you get into a relationship with a woman and then you involve the government, it's a bad deal for the man by default. So you got to play your cards smart. You know, the laws are better outside. Like in Japan, for example, there's no divorce, there's no alimony. During COVID, right? Or excuse me, there's no alimony, there's no child support. There is divorce, but it's very, very low. Actually, during COVID, divorce went down in Japan. In America, it went up. And in Japan, if you catch your spouse cheating, you can sue them for $10,000 and the person that they're cheating with. Man
and
or
the
woman.
person.
Yes.
Oh, the side piece. Getting
Accountability.
That charge. There you go. I'm going to do one more. And actually, you know what? Do we have super chats? Oh, we have a lot. Angel's like, oh man.
My
All right,
boys
let's
are
go.
here.
Let's go into the super chat first, and then I'm going to get into body count. Oh yeah. Okay.
All right,
let's
no
go.
problem. Shout out to Billy Hung. He said, I'm grateful that Jonathan is becoming more recognized. He is a wonderful man. He's taught me so much through his YouTube channel and through his coaching programs. Hope you two have a great discussion.
Yeah.
All right. Next, shout out to Bunny. She said, Jed, thank you for being a cool light in my little endeavor ongoing through life as isolated 22-year-old conservative. You make me feel less alone.
Oh, that's
nice.
sweet.
Awesome. Next, we have shout out to Damien Orozco. He said, my man ML hitting that podcast tour. Looking forward to that meetup in Cali. Good list of guests lately, Jed. Proud of you. Hashtag money, muscles, game, frame.
There we go.
Also, shout out to Russ. He just sent in money. Next, also, shout out to JD. He said, majority of Western women are just privileged. Minority of life came with laziness and entitlement. They need to learn from second, third world countries.
There you go.
All right. Also, we have shout out to Marriages Causes Divorces. Said, please get the lead attorney on. You won't regret it.
There you go. I knew it.
And the same person again has said, yesterday on Saucecast, a girl wanted a $5K month allowance in case her marriage ends in divorce. Thoughts on people planning for divorce before marriage? ?
That's Miss Montana.
She wanted $5,000 like ahead of time?
She wanted enough money in her monthly allowance to save for the potential divorce that could happen.
Oh, honey.
And I just told her, like, you're preparing for failure.
Why bother?
Yeah.
You're obviously not invested if you've got that type of mindset. No. Okay, I'm going to say, I don't know who she is, but avoid women like that. I'm just saying it straight up. Saying it straight up. Maybe I'll have her on.
I love it. I love it so
and
much.
We just got one last one. Miguel Nino, shout out to him again. He's always on the chat. In the Saucecast, it was mentioned that the women who participated in the panel were high-value women, and that is the problem with the three were masculine, and the sense that their value was masculine lawyer money.
Interesting.
We got one more that just popped up again as well. We could do the last one. He said, men network heals and educates men.
Interesting. I don't know if I would call it high value. My definition for high value women, I'm like, I know beauty goes a long way when it comes to women. Yeah. I get it. I get the reality of that. Guys get hypnotized by that youth and that beauty. It just is a thing. But I see some of these women labeled high value women, and I'm like, oh man, we got to like change this definition somehow, because I see them out for just the cash. I see them, planning like we just saw. Oh, well, if this ends, I got to make sure I'm protected. That's not what high value for me feels like. Like as a female, I'm like, doesn't high value mean that you respect the guy, that you're loyal, that you're faithful?
I think like high value women aren't really out there looking for the title of being a high value woman.
It's almost insulting sometimes when you see who you're group with. I'm like, oh, hell no. Take that title off me. I don't want it. So let's talk about body count. I happened to flip on. I wanted to hear some of what you were saying on Sauce as well. So I happened to go right at the time when you were talking about virgins and body count and all that.
Yesterday. I caught some heat for that.
Well, I couldn't believe Adam was saying, I'm going to have to take beef up with my friend Adam. But he was like, oh, I wouldn't want a virgin. And I'm sitting at home thinking, why not as a dude? Like I couldn't, I couldn't fathom that. But I want to talk to you about the body count and the whole virgin debate. Why do you think women have such a hard time understanding that their body count, if it's high, is just going to be negatively viewed by a guy? Why can't they process and internalize that reality?
I think they do understand.
They do.
I think instinctively they know, like, that's why across the globe they all lie about it. I think they inherently know.
Why don't they change their behavior then?
Because there's been no consequence.
Because they're not happy, right?
No,
so it's like,
that.
Okay, you're not happy. You know this is not making you more appealing to a guy. Why are you doing it then?
I mean, I think it's like engaging in consistent casual sex is like, it's like using drugs. Like it's fun, it's good in the moment, but then the repercussions come later. You know what I mean?
It's not fun for a lot of girls though. I'm telling you, even in the moment, because women, like if you're not pairing emotion with that and you don't feel safe in that, it's not fun for us.
There's a lot of damaged girls out there though. There's a lot of them engaging in a lot of these bad behaviors. But I can just tell you, like, guys are just absolutely, like, we are biologically repulsed by it. Some dudes will be like, oh, it's okay, doesn't matter.
Can you explain that? Because what happens is folks on the other side will say, oh, those are just insecure guys.
Right.
Those are guys who just can't handle that, you know,
Her
you've
whoredom.
had your, right, that you've had your pick of the litter. And my argument, but I'm saying it, I'm not a man, but my argument is like, no, it's just nasty, A. And B, they don't want to think about the fact that you, A, don't have enough self-respect to be particular about who you share your body with. B, you may wind up bearing their child one day and now he's going to look back and know that you were like open like 7-Eleven all night. Not cute. So I think and guys are visual. They don't want to visualize that you've been with all these men. There's a nastiness to it.
Yeah.
So is there an insecurity component though, you think, that guys will feel like, oh, she's too hot on the market. She's going to stray. Is that part of it?
I think it's not, I mean, in our modern culture, like anytime a man has a preference, they're just like, oh, he's just insecure.
Right.
And it's like, no, I have a fucking backbone. Like I have things that I want. And I see a lot of girls, like all the girls yesterday got triggered when I started talking about body count, you know.
Those numbers must have been sky
Well,
high.
I mean, you know.
I'm not going to say they were,
you know?
but I'm not going to say they weren't. What would happen if we put those body counts on their forehead like Tate said? I would have loved to see that room. See, imagine you could just have women sitting there, hot minute, and I hit a button and the number just pops up in neon.
I'm telling you, that app is coming. That technology is coming.
Oh, let's do it. Maybe I can pitch that to PBD. That would be great.
But yeah, like the body count, the thing is like, it just adds a lot of, how can I say, like, we just are very unsure of her choice making. You know what I mean? And like, just biologically speaking, I don't know, I'm just repulsed by it. And most men are. It's like men across the globe.
It just is.
It's not like just like a conspiracy, like
Right.
we're all meeting behind the scenes, like, okay, like, you know, these girls are hoes.
How high is too high? Is there a number where you're like, oh, that is like, you would, if a guy came to you for coaching and was like, my girlfriend is 25, has a body count of, is there a number where you'd be like, listen, I'm going to be honest with you, that's high?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think anything north of 10 is just
Me
like,
too.
it's just like, what have you been doing? Where did your father?
At any age, by the way.
Did your dad not hold you when you were little? Like, what happened? You know. But the thing is, I mean, a lot of women get triggered by this. But yeah, like women need to understand that men have standards too, and you need to respect that if you want to engage in a relationship with a man. Right? We are human too. We have desires, just like women are repulsed by a guy that has no job.
Right.
If he lives at home with his mom, they're like, oh, I'm repulsed by that. A guy looks at a woman, she's like, well, I've been with 70 dudes. Be like, oof, well, I'm going to go to the doctor. Like,
Yeah, and by the way, it's flipped in the sense that, if a woman hears that a guy's, slept with a lot of people, she just doesn't care. She just doesn't. You ask them all the time and they don't.
Yeah.
But if a guy heard about a woman and she lived at home with her parents, he would be like, oh, okay. That wouldn't be a complete turnoff for him. That wouldn't be like if she worked at McDonald's, he'd be like, okay, cool. You're a great person. You're really nice. So this is, again, at the underpinning of this is a refusal to accept that men and women are different. And because women don't care about a man's high body count, now they want to put that on guys and say, well, we don't care, so you shouldn't care. And I'm like, honey, you're not a man. They're looking at different things. They prioritize different things.
Right.
It's wild.
Yeah.
But now the virgin conversation is interesting to me, though. Is there any part, so I don't know, would you marry a virgin?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so this is what gets told to me. This is the pushback that I hear from guys that say, oh, I would never want to marry a virgin, because they feel that woman is going to have to sow her oats at some point. Like, she's going to be with you.
No.
And then she's going to have to go through the phase of the experimentation.
No, it's retarded. Like, no, like women are not inherently whores. Like, they don't want to go out there and do this. I know a girl that's like a 36-year-old virgin. Right, she's just waiting.
Religious, or because sometimes that's a consistent.
Religion absolutely has a component to do with it, for sure. I don't think she's religious, but I think she's like a casual Christian.
Okay,
you know what I mean. But going back to like the whole body count thing, the data just shows it too. Like marriage statistics, right? The more partners a woman's been with, the more likely she's going to have a divorce. The more likely she's going to cheat. And the more likely she's going to be unhappy in that relationship. So the data is just clear as day. While they're engaging it, I mean, it's the same reason, like, sometimes people are like, I'm just going to eat McDonald's. I know it's bad for me, like, whatever.
Yeah.
They're not really thinking long term. But the whole thing, though, with the body count is it's just not okay. I mean, you could make it work depending on the person, but you have to be like really mature and like sit down and like really cope hard with it. But the ideal is guys don't want to deal with it.
I always tell guys, if you found yourself a really good woman, a high quality woman, and you're still worried that she's going to need to sow her oats, you're not sure about that woman, because I never had that chip.
Yeah, exactly.
I never had it. Like it just was not in me to be promiscuous.
Right.
I couldn't do it. Like even mentally, when I would try to look around and be like, well, all my friends are doing it. Why can't I? Could not do it.
Yeah.
So there are women out there that could absolutely marry the first person that they have sex with and never need to sow those oats. So I always say, if you're wondering about that, maybe you don't have the woman that you think you have.
There's no data supporting that a woman must go through this hoe phase. That's an exclusively American thing. But another thing is this too. When a woman has hoe friends and the hoe friends find out that the woman is pure, those hoe friends are insecure about her, and they're going to be like, no, you go out there, sleep with this guy. Like, go out there.
I lived through that as well.
You know,
I lived through. It's interesting. I grew up in.
Can you elaborate
New York
on
City.
that? Because guys, people think I make that up.
No. I grew up in New York City, and I was a good girl. You know, I was raised like that. My parents were very like, your body is your temple.
Right.
I just didn't want to be. I didn't want to have sex without emotion. That was not something that I was interested in at all. I remember a period in my early 20s. I was actually working. I went, got my master's. I loved education. I thought I wanted to be a college professor for a while. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I'll have a super flexible schedule. I'll have like a lot of downtime, which was really a priority for me, honestly, always. I decided to leave that, and I worked in the bar scene for a while, which is interesting because I don't drink.
Wow.
And I'm not promiscuous.
What did you do?
I was a cocktail waitress.
Wow.
And I was not in the scene. Wow. And I had friends that were very much in the scene, very kind of like living that early 20s. Oh, I'm going to sleep with this guy, that guy, having fun with it. And I got so much pressure. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you need to be living. Now's the time, all of that. And every time I would even say, well, maybe they're right, I would go to do it, and I couldn't, like, it just wasn't in me. It felt so unnatural that I was like, this is not for me. I'm not doing it. I'm not. But there is a ton of pressure. And that's why I always said, I did a red flag show the other day, and I said, if you're with a girl and she's got a ton of single female friends that are out there, girls' night out, slappy, all that, it's going to be a problem. It's
trashy. I mean, I'm sorry. Like they were telling me yesterday, one of the girls was outing herself as a hoe. She was saying like, so you're going to date a girl that's 18. She's like, how are you going to take her to the bar and go drinking? I'm like, I don't date women that drink like that.
Yeah.
I don't look at a girl and be like, oh wait, so you can't drink? All right, well, I got to cancel this whole thing. Mm-hmm. I personally believe that a woman who drinks, I just can't do it. Like, I'm the degenerate in the relationship. So she needs to take care of me and my degeneracy. And I'm just saying, like, I go out and drink once in a while, right?
Yeah.
I don't drink at home. I never do. My vice is Domino's, right? So
it's not a bad vice, honestly.
I don't drink.
My
at
vice
home.
is beef jerky. Just saying.
It's not
grass fed.
That's not even a vice.
That's as bad as it gets. So yeah.
But yeah, like the whole argument of like, she needs to drink. She needs to be part of this drinking culture, and it's like, literally break it down. What is the positive ROI of your woman consuming alcohol in the relationship, or going to a bar and having girls' night out? Everybody knows when you drink, bad shit usually happens. You wake up, you're like, oh God, how much money did I spend? Oh God, like, what did I do last night? Why am I on this sofa?
Always some type of regret that comes into play. Mm-hmm. I wasn't, it's funny with the drinking too. I could never stand the taste of alcohol. And I would like force myself sometimes, even in like the college days or post-college, to have like that sip of this or that sip of that, but it just wasn't. And I would look around and I'd be like, wow, these girls are just losing their minds, man. It's just, and I actually got a lot of heat at one point. I left college. I'm very open with the audience about my life. I wound up when I left college, I had only, had one boyfriend at that time. I didn't have I didn't do any of that when I was young.
Congratulations.
One boyfriend, which is like, I'm like a relic now. People are like, one, what were you doing? Oh, you missed out.
I respect that.
But he was away. Like we had, for a period of time, there was long distance, and it was a little bit rocky, like, because I was not designed for long distance. And I remember my friends being like, oh, just go out. And that entire year, I didn't hook up with anybody. I was no way. And I always say, if you've got tunnel vision for a man, you're not looking to do this and that. Like, it doesn't work like that. And that's why when you brought up my husband, I was like, there's no amount of money. I mean, my husband is like, I got a diamond. I'm not messing with that. Like you're not gonna. There's no doing better
That's
than
beautiful.
what I
I
got.
love it. I love it. I love it. I mean, I think, this is not to like brown nose you either, but I think like you're a really good role model for women, because the average role model for women nowadays are like literal whores, like Kim Kardashian. Like,
oh yeah,
literally a whore from her sex tape.
Yeah.
Nicki Minaj, Nicki Minaj not light with Cardi B. Like, you have chicks that are like literally spreading sexual degeneracy.
Yeah.
And guys just like, oh, well, this is great for me, but those guys work at 7-Eleven. Like quality dudes. Because if you look at the upper echelon of society, I think 5 out of 6 millionaires are married. You know what I mean? These men understand that they want a good woman that can hold them down. Because men and women are supposed to be together, right? And what's all this? I've achieved high levels of success myself, right? And this success, it kind of feels empty if you don't have someone to share it with. You know what I mean? Especially somebody you love. Men and women are supposed to be together. We're not supposed to be at each other's necks.
That's right.
And I think that it's really important for men and women both to like realize this and come together.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to get to the chat in a second. I'm going to do Rolo's tweet first. So we're going to respond to. I pulled some stuff off Twitter that I thought would be interesting that you might have an opinion on, which I know you'll have an opinion on. Do you know Rolo?
Rolo is a great friend of mine, and he's a big reason why I'm here.
Yeah. Rolo's, it was funny. He came on the show the first time, and I was like new to this space.
Okay.
Triggered.
Were you triggered?
No joke.
About what?
Dude, I was triggered by Andrew Tate talking about female self-defense. Oh, you got to go back. I did a takedown of myself, actually. I did a takedown of myself because I was like, wow, just to realize the amount of internalized nonsense that even I, someone, again, pro-life, stood up for men my whole life, want my guy, love masculinity,
right.
I still had some of that in me.
Female self-defense is kind of a joke, though.
Totally. Are you kidding me? Please. It's like, my husband was like embarrassed when I did that. He's like, honey. And then I sat down and I actually had to sit and talk with him, and like we discussed it. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I got to go back. And he's like, do a takedown of yourself. I was like, yeah, I'm going to. I felt so strongly about what an idiot I had been that I wanted the audience to see it. So that we did that. But Rolo has come back since. We've had great discussions. He had a tweet up. Do you have that tweet, Angel, to pull up? Yes. Okay, so this is the picture. I'm tired of being looked at as a set of holes. And Rolo puts on top of it, you can start by putting your clothes on.
Yeah.
So this is interesting to me because women oftentimes will demand respect just because.
Yeah.
They don't feel that they have to earn it in any way. They feel they can walk around half naked, and somehow if a guy makes a judgment about them as a result of the way they're carrying themselves and what they're wearing at all, if a guy says, oh, that looks like somebody who might be willing to have a one-night stand, they're offended in some way. Why is there no responsibility on women for their own behavior and actions in this society?
Oh, because they're the victims. They're the ones that are being extorted. They're the ones that the companies want to take money from. They're the ones that the politicians want votes for, So they tell them what they think they want to hear, and then next thing you know, they're following this terrible advice, and then they end up fat, single, lonely. Look at the body positivity movement, right? Like you're in fantastic shape, right? There are women who are like, well, I've had kids, and I'm in my 40s, and I'm in my 50s, so I'm allowed to weigh 200 pounds.
I'm 43, and I had a baby. He's 3. So there's no excuses, you know what I'm saying? But I work, I eat right. I do exercise. Thank you for saying that. But for me, it's not about, truthfully, like, oh, the visual. I'm married. I've got my husband. But it is also, for me, it's about, like, I want to be here for this child as long as possible. It's my responsibility. My job as a mom is to like be here for my husband, be here, be strong, be healthy. I also don't want to be, a victim of the big pharma scheme.
Yeah.
So there's that. But also I do think, truthfully, I'll get heat for this, of course, but I think as a woman, a guy falls in love with you and say you weigh, I don't know, 130 pounds and whatever it may be. If you balloon to 250, that guy's not allowed to say something. I mean, honestly, like, I'm sorry, but like he should be able to say something about that. Number one, now you're disrespecting your body. You're obviously do not care about your own longevity in this family. It's not healthy. And number two, there is a component to a relationship that is attraction. So why can't that be? I just don't understand. If a guy balloons, you can say to him, you're fat, you better go on a diet. All your friends can laugh at him. But if it's a woman, that guy has no voice to say, honey, like, listen, I married you and you didn't look like this. Like, put the Krispy Kreme down.
Yeah, like when a woman gains weight, like 30, 40 pounds, that's the equivalent of a man losing his job in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, both are unacceptable. But, I mean, if you ever see, like, the girls that they had there on the tweet there from Rolo, it's always girls that are, like, not that cute or a little ugly that are this big feminism component, right? These disenfranchised women, because at the end of the day, these
Typically
girls
overweight, significantly so.
They just want to be loved. They just want a man, and they're acting like this because they're advertising themselves as like hoes. You know, like literally, you're completely naked, and you're like, I'm tired of being looked at as like a set of holes.
Okay,
like,
put some clothes on and go to the gym, honey.
You're advertising as holes. You know what I mean? So I mean, the cognitive dissonance is palpable.
Do we have chats? We're going to get to those, and then we're going to talk about female psychology.
Yes, we do.
Angel's like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, we got a lot. Shout out to Beaten Cheeks. He said Jed and MLD need to get on The View, teach these feminists a thing or two.
Oh, I was there already. I got thrown off, so there was that. You can go on though.
Oh, I don't want to.
I lost that job real quick. Maybe this time I cannot ask Hillary Clinton a tough question and keep my job. Next.
Oh, that's right. I heard about that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next we have shout out to David Jones, MLD. Do single moms in Japan appreciate the men who will take them on more than in the West? How are they different?
Being a single mom in Japan is like a death sentence.
Is it really?
It's just like, they're like, you fucked up. You fucked up, lady. You know? And it's hard. It's hard on them because it is like Japanese society. People in Japanese society die suddenly from overwork all the time, or they have a suicide.
It's not climate change over there causing that sudden death.
I don't know.
You know what I'm getting. You know what I'm getting.
I don't want to get your channel deleted. I'm a pure blood over here. I don't want to get your channel deleted, but you know, they have to enter this fierce Japanese workforce and rear children by themselves, and it is hard. It is very, very hard for them. Extremely hard.
Angel.
Yes. All right. Shout out to Korahi. He said MMGF is the way to salvation. Thanks to MLD and the brothers in the men, he has helped many of us succeed in life.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jerry. He said, thank you for your journey, MLD. Jedediah, my sister, and I watch every one of your episodes together. Love it, and thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm getting all bashful. Okay.
So next, we got David Jones again. He said, MLD, what would you say is the average body count for a Japanese woman around 25?
Ooh, depending on the girl, because there's hoes out there too. But like,
they're everywhere.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, I have met 25-year-old virgins out there, you know, and I would say, I don't know, man, it's hard to say, but the more like domestic Japanese she is, typically the lower. They understand it too. They're like, this is not okay. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right. Next, we shout out to Mr. G Money. Said, what was Adam smoking for not wanting a virgin, and should we keep other guys from smoking it? MLD is the real G.
Oh, man. Maybe the same thing he was smoking when he wasn't worried about the World Economic Forum. I don't know. I'm going to have to get Adam on here.
No.
I'm going to have to get him on here.
We're the red pill
We're going to
him.
have to go through the politics and the virginity stuff together. I'll help him out. Don't worry. You know I love you, Adam, if you're watching. I do love him.
All right, next, shout out to Milagros. She said, thank you, MLD and the Manosphere. I'm in my 20s with a man in his 40s. I was in a belligerent relationship, and it made me miserable. The RP reminded me of my foundation. I need a higher, not an equal.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Next, we have Lord Venom. He said, MLD, great to see you making the rounds, and this podcast is so much better than the one you did with Adam.
Gosh.
They're on a roll.
Y'all got to get...
That was rough to watch. Adam can't host.
Oh, no. Adam's great. I love Adam. I love Adam.
No hate.
Please. Next, American Capitalist 90 said, other women with absolutely ruined it for their friends. My friend's happily married wife had a friends group of single women who kept pushing her to try new things, drugs, etc. 2 years later, she's divorcing him and is a wreck.
Yep. That I hear a lot. I hear that a version of that story too
What
often.
exactly?
Just, you know, women hanging out with women who are, you know, say a woman is married. Mm-hmm. She's hanging out with a bunch of single friends, getting involved in this, that. Maybe those friends are divorced, going through something, and suddenly her marriage falls apart.
Yep.
You know, it's very common, actually.
No, that's actually statistically proven. Actually, if a friend of a friend has a divorce, there's a 33% chance that woman will get a divorce. If it's a direct friend, I think it goes up to like 66%.
Wow.
Yeah, no, this is like when I find out, like, there's like, if I'm dating a girl and I find out all her friends are breaking up, I'm like, all right, like, get away from those girls, because they're going back to the streets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think people don't seem to realize this, but who you spend time with absolutely is who you become.
That's right.
Whether you want to believe it or not.
No, it's 100% true. That's why I'm always like, be careful who you let into that inner circle, you know?
No hoe
Right,
friends.
2 more.
Yeah, 2 more? Okay, quick. And then we're going to do, thank you, Angel. And then we'll do a couple more on psychology.
Sounds great. Shout out to Brandon M. Said, it's great to hear MLD interviewed and talk without a bunch of crackling hens. Hot dude army. And last one will be, shout out to the Smoking Patriot. Said, only reason I want to legally marry my girlfriend is so she has the legal rights to any benefits I have. God forbid I pass too early.
That's a good man.
Interesting. Wow. All right. Thank you, everyone. And we will check back in the chat at the close as well. So if you have more questions, comments, get them in there. All right. This was an interesting tweet. This is the second one, Angel, on female psychology. We'll put it up so that you can see it as well. It says in quotes, Mike is such an asshole. He flirts with other girls in front of me. Why can't I find a good guy? Good guy appears. Oh, wait, Mike's calling me. Yes, babe, I'll be there in 10 minutes. So this idea that these women say, oh, I would never, you know, I want the good guy. I want the good guy. I want the really good guy. And then the good guy shows up and they're bored and they're chasing after the guy who's not giving them time.
Right.
Talk to me about that.
Well, I mean, you can't judge a woman by what she says. You got to judge her by what she does, right? If you have a chick that's constantly like, oh, my ex was toxic and this ex was toxic and that one's ex was toxic, like, okay, you like toxic guys.
Or you're toxic.
Or that too, right?
You know?
And probably, honestly, the root of that is probably coming from a broken household where mom and dad were fighting. If you ever do your due diligence and do your research as to why a girl is acting a certain way, always look at her family, right?
Yeah.
Is she coming from a divorced household? Was dad there? Was he an asshole? Was he beating mom? Was he drinking, right? And 9 times out of 10, when you have like bad behaviors in the children, it came from the parents. You know what I mean? So, I mean, this situation here, it's kind of cliche when they say like, oh, you know, like she says one thing, but she does another. But I mean, it happens all the time. And how you actually solve this is just look at her actions. Like I tell guys, if you're going to date a girl seriously, you need to vet her for at least 18 months minimum.
18 months.
Yes.
Wow. They're not doing that. Guys aren't doing that.
They
not even
aren't.
close.
They aren't, but they should, right?
What does vetting mean? What does that process look like?
A woman could put up a good act for 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
But then, you know, there's eventually chinks in
There's a
the
leak.
armor. There's a chinks in the armor. You start to see what's really happening. And then you're like, oh, so this is who you are.
So what, in that period of time that you call vetting, what should guys be looking for specifically?
Well, you want a woman that is just going to have your back. And that's my number one thing, because women leave relationships left and right these days.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they ghost people. They block them. They treat men like they're not humans. And that's just absolutely reprehensible behavior, right? So I just tell a guy to like look for a woman that's going to be understanding. Look for a woman that's going to be supportive. Look for a woman that when you're down and out, she's still there for you, right? I was dating a girl for a long time. I was dating her for like 4 years, and there was a point where I was like literally a loser. I was just like, I had lost my job. I had lost my business that I started. And like at one time, like we went to the beach on a weekend, and she wanted to pay for like our $45 dinner. And like, I just didn't have the money. And I was just like seething internally. I am such a fucking loser. And I was so embarrassed that she had to do this, but she paid it. She held me down. And like I carried that guilt for like 2 years. And then when I finally made it big, I just like bought her whatever she wanted. But you want a woman that likes you for you. A lot of guys go for the woman that they like, but you got to go for the woman that likes you.
That likes you.
You know?
Yep.
Because
I did this the other day on here. I was talking about how, yes, I'm not saying don't buy nice things for your girl. I'm not saying, you know, don't take them out to a nice dinner, but you need a girl who is going to be happy as all hell if you take her away on a trip and it's just you and her and there's nothing fancy. Right. It has to, at the end of the day, you have to be enough.
Yes.
And you will, if a girl really likes you, you will be enough. You will notice the difference between that girl and someone who's there for the stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I had a beautiful, like half Japanese, half Brazilian girlfriend. And I remember she was just so down for me. And at the beginning of the relationship, I was like, man, what is this bitch up to? Like, because I wasn't used,
Not used to it.
I wasn't used to this. This was like my first year in Japan. I was like, what's this chick's angle? And I was like, all right, like I have time, but I only have 2 hours. And the only thing near my house is McDonald's. She's like, okay, I'll meet you there. And I was just
Yeah.
like,
Oh, no joke.
and this girl was a model. Like she showed up. She's a beautiful model. And she goes with me, and we literally ate at McDonald's. And this like, I went home, like rethought my life. I was just like, what did I just experience?
Yeah.
But I was at the time, I was pretty young. I was like 27. And so that was like 10 years ago. So I was looking at that versus like my American relationships and other relationships that I've been in with women in Japan that didn't have what we like to call in the red pill space and manosphere, like she didn't have genuine desire for me.
Oh, Rolo talks about that all the time.
Right.
Yep,
you
yep.
know, genuine desire.
Yep.
You want a woman who has genuine desire for you, not for your Ferrari, not for your house,
right.
not for your 401k, not for your Bitcoin, right? But for
Yes.
you.
It's when a woman is really into a guy, it's so powerful.
Yes.
I mean, it's really like, we will do and die for you.
Yeah.
You are enough. Like, I will always say, like, a woman would rather be with a guy she's really attracted to and really into in a hut than a guy she's not attracted to and not into in a palace, because that attraction is so important for a woman.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not, you can have all the money in the world. If she doesn't want to sleep with you, if she's not physically attracted to you, it's eventually there's going to be a glitch in that machine.
Yeah. And that ability to be deeply in love with your man gets eroded away the more dick she takes, the higher her body count. Like, you know, you just fry out the receptors and they get jaded. You know what I mean? There's like, the data is clear. Like the girls who sleep around, they have higher levels of depression, higher levels of anxiety, higher levels of just genuine dissatisfaction with themselves. And when you're unhappy with yourself, when you're constantly anxious, you're constantly depressed, how can you even function happily in a relationship?
Right.
You know, your personal judgment is clouded.
And they're used to a revolving door. They're
Yes.
used to that dynamic of like come and go and just like, so that becomes their norm,
Yes.
you know, and they're not used to like actually building with someone, going through the ups and downs, providing that support.
Yeah.
It's like one foot is always out the door, particularly now, I think with social media and how like women get so much attention.
Yeah.
They always feel like, oh, well, I'm happy, but happier could be right there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just leave that door open.
Yeah.
It's a real big problem, actually, the technology. Interesting when you were talking, and I'll let you respond to this, but when you were talking also about Japan, I was thinking, I wonder like if technology and the fact that there as well, women can be on all of these channels, you know, they can be out there everywhere at one time. Is that compromising, you know, the values of these individual countries and places and cultures that do actually value traditional values? You know, the girl goes on Instagram and suddenly it's like, you know, is it that much different?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think overall, if you're going to weigh out the positives and negatives of social media, I think the negatives just way outweigh the positives, you know? But it's kind of, we're in the situation right now, and it is what it is. But like, going back to like what I was saying with the body count and stuff, when these girls are constantly on these social media platforms, they're constantly being, you know, hit up by
DMs.
in the DMs, sending likes, sending comments. And with these girls, they always have one foot out the door. Like, how are you going to commit? You know what I mean? A lot of these girls, you said they get conditioned into like, you know, thinking like the solution to their problems is just at the end of another new dick. Like they literally think like, I'm just going to find a new guy.
Yes.
You know, and like you are in a relationship. How long have you been married?
5 years in February.
And how long have you guys been dating?
I want to say 8.5.
So 13 years total.
Yeah.
And
No. 5 years married,
Okay.
and then an additional three plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
During those 8 years, I'm sure there were good times and I'm sure there were bad times, ups and downs.
I mean, every relationship, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, we truthfully like, we're pretty good. But like,
Yeah.
of course, in the course of a day, like, will we see things differently sometimes? Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to paint your marriage in a
Oh,
bad
yeah.
light.
No, I get it.
But I'm trying to say is like a lot of people, because we live in this TLDR generation, right? Like people don't wait 4 seconds for a website to load.
Yeah.
Instagram shorts or Instagram reels, YouTube shorts, TikToks, right? These are all conditioning us to be wanting instant satisfaction,
Right.
instant gratification, right? And people are thinking relationships are like that, and it's just not the same. Like you have to work things out, and this is for men too, because a lot of guys are like, oh, this girl doesn't act right. You know, she's next. I got to next her hard, and that's just not the solution. Now you do have to have boundaries, and you do have to have a certain level of tolerance. But I feel like modern females nowadays, they have the delusion to think that they're inboxed with all those dudes.
Right.
Each guy is a perfect guy.
Right.
But that's just not the case
And
at all.
because they're largely promiscuous, they're comfortable just being like, oh, this is done, I'm going to hop over here. Like
Yeah.
that, I wasn't, again, like when I invested in something, it felt like really important to me because I hadn't had that revolving door ever.
Right.
So it's just a different vibe. Interesting. I also, it's interesting when I met my husband, he'll remember this. I remember he had, there was a girl that he had went to college with or something, and I remember her being in a relationship with someone, and they were serious, and she would go on other guys' Instagrams, hearts, like all this weird stuff, and I remember sitting him down and being like, this girl's shady. This is not appropriate. It's disrespectful what's going on. And I see that too. I see these girls they're in relationships. I'm like, what are you heart liking? That is, keep that for your man. Like, it's nothing sacred to you girls anymore. It's like, and I think that also is part of that, like they spread themselves thin all those years, this, that, everybody's in the phone. It's like you start dating a guy, but you don't cut off contacts with other people you hooked up with. It's just all so nasty to me.
Yeah, it is.
God, I need a DeLorean to go back in time.
And I think a big part of that too is like, I just think they genuinely don't know. That's why I think like women like
This
you.
is all they know. Yeah.
No, like women like you are important. Like you really have to teach them. That's how this is going to get changed. We have to teach them like this is not okay, because women think like, yeah, it's okay to be okay, like friends with my ex. But if a guy is keeping in touch with his ex-girlfriends, that girl is just like livid. She's like,
because they know that's not, it's a tricky situation. I did a whole thing on the other day about like girls who have the single male friends.
Oh no.
And they spend quality time alone with them.
Nope.
Honey, no, come on.
No.
I mean, no.
No guy's okay with that.
No, and you have to know. Like the other problem is like the guys say, well, if I speak up for myself, I'm going to lose her. Okay, you know what? Then you'll lose her, and you're going to also lose a headache along with that.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, I tell that to a lot of guys. They're afraid to lose their women, and they sacrifice this is what Hold Frame is about, right? They break their internal boundaries. They break their internal code in order to keep the woman, but ultimately what they're doing is just guaranteeing that the woman's going to leave.
Right, 100%. All right, let's pull up this tweet from, it's about boss bitches. You see that one?
Oh, God.
Poor Angel. Okay, so it says, boss bitch, I don't need a man. You know, the mantra. List of things boss bitch can't do. Cook, clean, start a fire, change oil, hang a picture, jump a car, shovel snow, dig a post hole. I don't even know what that is. Clean out a culvert. I don't know what that is either, admittedly. Change an AC filter, reset a breaker, install a light bulb. But boss bitch don't need a man. So, and that's interesting. It's like they don't need a man until they need a man. Something happens in the house. And I will be straight up about this. Like, I mean, I do cook and clean. But beyond that, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. My car breaks down on the side of the road. You know what I do? I call my husband. And I'm like, babe,
Save me.
what do I do? Or if something needs to be fixed, like when my water filter needed to be installed, I wasn't hanging out below the sink, getting dirty with that. My husband was doing that. He's like a hands-on kind of guy.
Good.
So what is this about? This whole like, they say I don't need a man, but they know they need a man. And ultimately they're going to find themselves needing a man, and maybe it's going to be too late.
Because just life has been so convenient for them. Like they could literally outsource all that stuff. But like, I don't know. I mean,
you can't outsource it at 10 o'clock at night though, when something breaks in the house and there you are.
That's true. That's true. I think if a lot of women dug a post hole, they would understand.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
What is
exactly.
that?
Exactly. It's hell. You
Sounds
ever,
dirty.
Angel, you ever dig a post hole before?
It sounds like I'm going to
man.
get my hands dirty doing that.
It's like you have a fence pole, like the fence have poles, and they have like this kind of like scissor, like shovel. You have to like stab into the ground.
I'm good.
It's terrible.
I don't need to change my tires. I don't need to do any of that stuff.
Jay
I don't
Waller
want-
probably knows what digging a post hole is as well.
Yeah.
That's real
He
blue
seems like
collar.
the kind of guy that
It's
would
real
know.
blue
and be like,
collar.
yes, yeah. I don't know anything about that stuff. It's just so funny. I don't need a man. I don't need a man. And there was an exchange about that happened with this. And we're gonna do this next. So do you know who Tommy Lauren is?
Oh, I have a story for you offline for that.
Why does it have to be offline? You know I want to cut that shit. All right, I get it. I have to respect privacy. But so she writes this tweet. Let's pull her tweet up first. I don't know her personally. I know she's conservative, whatnot. But she writes, men under 40 have no manners towards or basic respect for women anymore. I don't know if it's rabid feminist culture or the overall pussification of the male species to blame, but it sure is disappointing.
She's just mad because she's single.
She's married now, I think.
Is she? To who?
I think she got married.
When was this?
I'm pretty sure.
This must have been recent.
Angel's like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure she got married. She was engaged and then broke up, and then I think she just got married this year.
This year's 2023.
2022. I'm pretty sure she got married.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
But check this out. So I write above it, rabid feminism plays a role. You can pull that one up. I don't know if you have that one, Angel, to pull up. I write, rabid feminism plays a role. Men are consistently told their masculinity is toxic and slapped on the hand for being gentlemen. Many are also treated like garbage by modern women, insisting, I don't need a man. Vile disrespect is also rampant. So I appreciate that she acknowledged that feminism played a role, like in her tweet saying, you know, men under 40, feminism plays a role. But there's, even within that tweet, what irritated me about it is it's like, why is it all on men? Why are you putting it all on men? Why don't we acknowledge that there are also badly behaved women out there that are treating men like garbage? And as a result, what should they be doing? You know, you internalize that stuff at some point as a guy. If you go through life as a man and you are consistently being treated like garbage, you are consistently being told your masculinity is toxic, you're consistently, you know, being told that, you know, you're going to get a slap on the hand if you're a gentleman. At some point, you're going to be like, you know what? I'm not going to be nice anymore. I'm done. I'm just going to stay away from all y'all crazy ladies.
Right.
So I'm so tired of like a lack of accountability for women. Like, what is your role in what's going on? I'm not saying there aren't men that, yes, have bad manners. That all exists. But there's women that have bad manners too. Yeah,
well, I mean, it's two parts, right? Because again, with mainstream culture in America, like depicting women as whores, like, you know, all the music's like what music's saying like get out there, marry someone, and they'll be a hoe, right? All this other music is talking about being.
Imagine that song.
You know, talking about being promiscuous, women shaking their ass, twerking, becoming a mainstream culture thing. You know, like all this shit that is like literally painting all women as hoes, and then you have women who are not hoes being shamed by women who are hoes. Like, why aren't you a hoe, right? I mean, being called a pick me now is like an insult, right? But the bottom line is this: these guys are just following the cultural trends, and for the majority of women who are acting like hoes, like sometimes, you know, the girls that aren't hoes get treated like one,
right?
But it's just the whole marketplace is screwed up because of female promiscuity, really. It's
not easy. I know you said before, like, oh, it's good that I have this platform and all that. I appreciate that, but it's not easy because, you know, I don't know if you know Drew Afwalo or you follow any of her commentary. She's a hardcore feminist. She's been, you know, wildly popular on TikTok. I mean, she's on red carpets now. And the challenge is when you're conveying that message to women, modern feminism, I mean, she'll outright say like, oh, I don't care about men. Men are garbage. You know, really horrible stuff that you know, in some cases, some would label as misandry, honestly.
She's American?
I don't know her full background. She's I'm going to say it wrong, so I'm not going to say it because then I'll get hate for that. But no, she I don't believe she is American.
Is she in America, though?
She is in America now.
America, it ruins women, too.
It deeply corrupts everything. And I cover her content a lot because I'm trying to show women, like, listen, you're free to follow her advice if you want. I want you to build the life you want for yourself, but this advice is going to lead you here. And my advice is going to leave you here.
Right.
And this, you're going to be miserable, and here you have a shot to be happy. So think about what I'm saying, you know? And I'm trying to like shake them into like reality, but
she's an immigrant to this country.
I think it was her parents who came to this country. I don't know a lot about her background. I just know about her current content.
A lot of chicks who like they'll feel like, you know, kind of like ostracized by being an immigrant in America. So what they'll do is like they'll hardcore jump on the feminist bandwagon to like seem like they fit in.
Well,
you know
she's making money. She's held in high esteem. I mean, it was the same thing with...
How's she making her money? Through being endorsing feminism?
She's an influencer. She's got a podcast now. She's invited to hang out with all the celebrities. That's the popular opinion to have. I mean, in the same way that, you know, if you didn't get an experimental shot in the last few years, you were shunned by media.
Right.
You know, she's upholding a viewpoint that they want upheld because ultimately her viewpoint is going to keep men and women more separate. She talks about, you know, how you shouldn't consider your body a temple. She's, you know, may or may not, use your own eyes, struggle with her weight. So, you know, it's a different lens on the world. And I'm here saying like, no, let's call unhealthy what it is. Like obesity is not good for you. I don't care. Get off your ass and, you know, get your shit together. You're a woman, you're a guy. It's not healthy. I'm not going to pretend it's healthy so you feel better at home. So it's just a very different way of looking at the world. But her view, the powers that be want it upheld. So she gets a lot of recognition and opportunities. So it's not easy to take the opposite view.
A lot of people do take the path of least resistance. So if she's saying be a fat slob, be a whore, have no respect for people, because ultimately, you know what having respect for people is? It's showing respect for yourself, When I respect you, it's not for you. I mean, it is for you, right? But it's ultimately for me.
For you, yeah.
Right? And I think just having these, like, it's just low-hanging fruit for idiots. And then, one thing that really changed my life in 2022 was I looked at the bell curve of IQ, and I had an epiphany when I realized, like, literally half of the world's population is 100 IQ or less.
It's scary.
So you're literally a coin toss to be like, is this person a mouth-breathing idiot? And that makes sense for a lot of what's happening.
And hence
right
likely
now.
a robot too, which is the
And
thing.
PC.
Easily programmable, all that stuff.
And that's what the powers that be want.
Yeah, I'm going to get to the Matrix with you. We're going to do one more thing, then I'm going to get to Matrix, and then we're going to get to chat to close out. One thing that was interesting after I had this exchange with Tommy Lauren is there was someone who weighed in, and she was saying, I don't need a man. There's nothing vile or disrespectful about that. And went on saying, if I choose to be with a man, it's because they make my life more fun. But my life is absolutely perfect without a man. They go on and on this mantra of like, somehow they don't understand. Modern women, it's very hard to get them to understand. I don't know how old this person is. I don't know anything about them. But that when you say you don't need a man on second one, it's like a horrible thing to say, and you're also minimizing chances that any guy's going to want anything to do with you. Why is this hard to comprehend?
It's hilarious because she wants a man.
Right.
She wants a man. She is dying for a
Right,
man.
right.
You know, listen, I dated this one girl, right? Hardcore Chinese feminist, smoke show. She's beautiful, right? But she would always go on her little Weibo, her like Chinese Twitter, and just talk shit about men. But then she would come over to me, snuggle up with me, be like, I love you, you're the best, I want you to take care of me. And I did a little digging, and we were like, dating for about 8 months, and I realized I've never been to this girl's house. And I was just like,
interesting.
What's going on? And I sat her down, I'm like, why have I never been to your house, right? What's going on here? I was like, you married? What's going on, right? And she's like, no, I'm not married. Like, I just don't want to show you. I was like, okay, like, you're going to show me what's going on in your house or I'm leaving. And so I went to her house, and she was a hoarder. She was a literal hoarder. I'll show you the video when we're offline.
Oh my gosh.
I have it on my phone.
I love that show, by the way, where you see how people, it's crazy.
It's reprehensible. It was disgusting. And she's online talking all this shit, how I don't need a man. Men are vile.
You need a housekeeper, honey.
Men are trash. Oh, and guess who helped her? Guess who helped her clean it up?
You did.
I did, right? Because I'm not a piece of shit. I'm a good guy. And when you have women like this is kind of like the equivalent of the incels or the black pill or the MGTOWs. They're like, I don't need a woman. Now here's a 4-hour podcast why I don't need a woman, right? All they do is sit around and talk about women. Girls like this are so sad and so damaged, and they definitely need a man, right? How are you going to tell me you don't need something and sit around and talk about it all day?
I know.
You know what I mean?
And I just don't understand, like, I don't need a man. Like, it's like they have to say that. They have to spit that out. Like, if they were to just say, you know what, I do need a man. I feel like my life would be enhanced. It would be better if I had a man in my life. There's things that I do well. There's things I don't do well. There's things that a man would do better than me. It's like there's some type of deep-seated insecurity that lies beneath that you just can't admit that there's things that a guy does better than you.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? I mean, I don't have it. I don't have that chip, but I'm deeply curious about it.
You were raised with mom and dad married?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom and dad are still married.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's a big part of it because people need to understand how to work together as a team, right? Like, when I move into a place, I am not decorating. I will say, here's the budget. Let's keep it cheap. Where do we need to go? Do we need to go to IKEA? Do we need to order this? But make it happen, right? I know that a woman has that natural nesting instinct.
Right.
She's going to design the house better. It's just so comfortable, right? I don't care what anybody says. When a woman cooks a meal for me, I would prefer that 10 times out of 10 compared to Uber Eats or DoorDash or eating out someplace, because I mean, this may sound cliche, but I can taste the love. I can feel the affection in the food, right? And that's what I want, right? And I can also acknowledge that I'm not insecure in the sense, like, I can acknowledge when a woman is better at me in certain things, right? Decorating, like taking care of children, right? You're not going to leave your kid with here's 45-year-old Bob. He wants to babysit the kid,
right? Right. I think was it Tate that said that? He said something about, like, if you went into a nursery and you saw a bunch of dudes, it would be weird. And it's not something. Of course, everybody's triggered. They're gonna be, well, why would that be weird? But it would be weird. Everybody instinctually would walk into that place and be like, I think I'm going to go check out another option, just really.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's like if I had my house burning down and like 12 women firefighters showed up, like, man, this house is fucked.
You'd be like, all right, I'll have to buy a new house, right? That's I say that all the time. I'm like, you say you don't need a man, but let tragedy strike and let them call. Like, maybe tell me how you feel if you see me coming to help you. Me, my size, my stature, my strength. Honey, you better run because I'm not going to be that helpful to you. I want to see a big, tall, strapping man. I want to see somebody who can carry weight on his shoulders. I want to see a fireman who can carry somebody like me in and out of the building.
Exactly. Like when I recently was looking for a house cleaner in Tokyo, right? And I had a good amount of guys apply, and I was just like, listen, dude, no offense, but never contact me again. Because like, you know this too. Yeah. There's man clean and then there's woman clean.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
I live it. I know.
Exactly. A woman will get down there in the crevices and clean everything
yes.
thoroughly. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm saying there are different roles that each gender has to be involved in.
It's funny. When I go home from the show, I don't like to have anyone that's not family watch my son for many reasons.
Smart.
So, yeah, and my parents aren't here right now. They're in New York still. So when my mom's out here, she's in charge. But when I come to the show, I'm with my son a lot of the time. That's why I only work 3 days a week. That's a priority. He's my number one. When I come to the show, my husband, will stay with him, and he's amazing. Like, best husband in the world. Like, they have the best relationship, dad and son. But I go home and I say, babe, did a bomb go off in this house? You know what I'm saying? Like, they're on the floor playing, wrestling, doing whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, oh. And he'll be like, it just doesn't, is it that bad? He just doesn't even see it. Yeah. But then when I tidy it up, he'll look at me and say, babe, it looks so pretty in here. It looks so like, wow, so we're just different. Yeah. Like, and how beautiful that, he can fix what's going on wrong under the sink and I can tidy up the place. And as a team. Yay. Yeah. Amazing.
Exactly.
I don't know. Society's all warped. I want to ask you one question before we head to chat and then we close out. All this talk about the matrix, I care deeply about what's going on with the World Economic Forum. I'm worried about digital currencies. I'm worried about censorship, active censorship that's going on with people. You have a very optimistic attitude. That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
I'm not as optimistic given what we've seen unfold in this country in the last couple of years and around the world when it came to the mandates and all of that craziness. How do you maintain your optimism in light of the reality that there are a group of very powerful people that are out to take everyone's individual freedom away and increasingly control society?
So we are here on this podcast right now and people are watching us because we're speaking the truth, right? People got on the internet. The internet is alive and well because of truth. People want the truth now more than ever, okay? And the fastest way to make sure someone remembers something forever is to trick them into thinking that something was right that actually wasn't right. For example, the experimental shots, right?
Yep.
So many people thought, just take this thing, I can take off the mask, I can get back to everything, and just, Trump's out of office, and once the orange man is gone, and
orange man bad,
everything's going to go back to normal. A lot of those people are permanently disenfranchised by the government, big pharma, because they were conned. They were conned hardcore, right? A lot of men who get out of these relationships with bad women, these guys remember. Right. The reason for people like Andrew Tate becoming as popular as he has been, right? There was a need for a guy like that. That's right. A positive masculine role model. And I know you can say whatever you think about the guy. I personally think he's the victim of a political hit job. But he offered so much more positive value.
Net positive, no question.
Net positive for the entire world. Okay. And like there's a need for that. People are searching for truth now more than ever because what happened with America. Let's talk about America for a second, right? Mainstream America, they killed God. They said God's not important anymore. Christianity, quite frankly, Christianity has kind of become a joke in this country, right? And because they sold out. They sold out for, really, they really sold out to keep women in the church, right? Telling them like, oh yeah, Jesus can wash away your sins and all that. You're like you're the ghost of Dick Mispass, as I call it.
That's fantastic.
Jesus can wash that away. Yeah, that's my trademark.
The ghost of Dick Mispass. Yeah,
I
can't.
I say the ghost of Dick Mispass always comes back to haunt the women.
It's true.
And I think people are just looking for truth. Look what Elon did with Twitter. Okay, not only did he stop the blatant censorship. Have you been keeping up with the Twitter files?
Yes, I have. We've
People
covered them here as well.
People already know that this has been happening, but now the truth has been revealed. And I look at the political campaigns of misinformation that are happening against us, the propaganda. I look at that as a hardcore need because they're getting more desperate. That's how I look at things, right? Everybody, I can't even say my true thoughts on our current sitting president right now because things would happen to this channel, and the election was totally legit. But I think that this growing desperation from them is a sign that they're losing control.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think they got sloppy.
Yeah, and there are people who feel that the mandates were also a sign of desperation for obvious reasons, because you shouldn't have to coerce people into a medical decision. Something's going on, something's wrong, something's shady, something.
And it kind of goes back to the double standard. What happened to my body, my choice?
Yeah.
Only when you kill a baby.
Selective, very selective, politically selective. Yeah. I mean, we cover on here. I appreciate your optimism. I think it's important to have hope. I think it's important to also have awareness. And there are some very, very ugly people right now who want to not just wreck this country, but wreck every freedom-loving country, every place in the world that wants to allow people to make their own decisions for themselves. So I cover everything from the WEF, Klaus Schwab, to electric cars, to everything that can be turned off with a click of a button, from outside of you. So I think it's an interesting component. And I do find that a lot of people in the red pill space may not call themselves conservative, but they have a deep awareness of and concern about this powers that be structure that may or may not be coming for them. So, which is smart.
And I think there was a global red pilling because have you noticed that once people started to rise up against these lockdowns around the world, they stopped.
That's right.
You know what I mean? They completely stopped. And I think that these people now realize, like, whoa, we got some power. And people are becoming more and more connected, especially thanks to social media. One of the net positives, you know what I mean?
One thing I will say, though, is there are many, many, many among us who are very comfortable being controlled. Who are very comfortable, being led by authoritarians into the jungle, and who knows what happens there, who are very comfortable being forced to take a medical treatment for themselves or their child. Crazy. So there are more of those people among us than we realized as well, unfortunately. But it's interesting. Great conversation. I want to go to the chat one last time and then give you an announcement for next week.
Okay, no problem. We have 4 super chats. Shout out to RS. He said, "Hey MLD, after money, muscles, game, and frame, don't forget your Perkins coupons and Hawaiian t-shirts." Next, we got Beaten Cheeks again. He said, "The gentleman reading super chats. Replace Natalia, bruh. She wrecked the super chats, including my high ones."
I agree.
Y'all in the chat, man. You got some nastiness to you today, man. What, did you not have breakfast? Did you not get jerky? Did you not get jerky? I'm gonna have to send you some
Angel
jerky.
is doing a great job, I think.
Yeah, Angel is doing a great job.
I don't want to get fired. I'm just kidding.
We love Natalia, though. We love Natalia. Note for that. She's my girl, so be nice.
He said Jed just went over Saucecast after last night. That's what he said.
I didn't see it. I actually thought I didn't see the whole thing, but I actually saw a brief segment on Sauce with you. I thought it was a great conversation. That virginity conversation, I thought it was fantastic. So I enjoyed it. I don't know about you all, but I did enjoy it. Thank you for being here, Jonathan. This was a fantastic discussion.
Thank you.
I love talking to you. My husband was like, "You're going to love this guy. Talk to this guy." And I trust him. So I was like, all right, let's book him. Let's get him there.
Tell
I
him I said
appreciate
thanks.
it. Yeah. He's very into, my husband is deeply distrustful of the system and also very into self-improvement and wellness and that whole angle. So a lot of this appeals to him. So thank you very much for being here. Audience, next week is a special week. I'm not going to tell you exactly what's going down, but I will tell you, first of all, I need you to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. I have an exclusive interview on Monday coming your way. We're going to be going live on Monday at 11 a.m. A little bit of a different hour. There's a reason for that. I am going to be spending some time on a topic that you're going to, just trust me, be here 11 a.m. on Monday. Exclusive interview. It's going to be remote. It's going to be worth it. Next Wednesday, we have Hunter Avalone here. Vegan, liberal, hates Andrew Tate. Oh, get your popcorn, honey. We're going to have a live in-person debate. And next Friday, to celebrate 100K, I have a very special panel. I'm going to step out of my studio. I'm going to head over into the live set, and we are going to have some of your favorite faces all on the set together. We're going to talk about Andrew Tate. We're going to talk to some people who were on the ground when the Vice documentary was filmed, and we're going to talk about the death of masculinity, and you are going to love it. I'm just telling you, next week is a big week. So hit that subscribe button, tell your friends, hit that like button. Jonathan, thank you. I had a blast.
Thank you so much.
See you again soon, hopefully. All right. Bye, everyone.